with a person sitting in front of you and they're telling your story and wanting help? How do you handle that?
I'm mindful, when Frederick Buechner wrote his autobiography, he said, the reason I'm sharing my story is not because I think I'm anyone special, but I'm writing my story because I believe that the story of any one of us is to some degree the story of us all. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you always try to be careful about when you're a therapist is, not to dominate the session and hijack it and say, well, let me tell you my story. Mm-hmm. But it's a powerful thing for people to feel understood. Yeah. And so being able sometimes to share a part of my own story so that they have a sense of, that they're not in pioneer territory. Right. But don't ever say to someone, I know exactly how you feel.
Because you don't.
Because you don't. Yeah. What I frequently will say to someone in a session, in an introductory session, is, tell me what it's like to be you. Mm-hmm. Tell me what it's like to be you. And then, sometimes when it's appropriate, I'll share something that I think that, resonates with their story.
Great book. In fact, you have scripture all the way through it. Paul's surprising habit in a Roman prison. Kind of hard to fathom. When you went through what you went through, and then you think about Paul in a Roman prison, and he's talking about rejoicing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is he disillusioned? Is he delirious? What is he?
Well, the book is really anchored in the book of Philippians. This book is anchored in Paul's letter to the Philippians. It's not a Bible study of Philippians per se, but anchored there because Philippians is my favorite book of the Scriptures. It's where I go to for my sort of attitudinal front-end alignments. Because what I find remarkable in Philippians is, Paul had planned to go to Rome to be an open-air evangelist and finds himself, there in prison chained to a rotation of Roman guards. And I know me. I can get a sinus infection and act like God doesn't love me anymore. so here's, Paul goes to Rome to do God's work, to spread the gospel, and finds himself in prison. And I know me, I'd be saying to God, this is the thanks I get. Yeah. Who's more devoted and committed and obedient as a servant to you than me? And this is the perks, this is the rewards I get.
But you point out that the guards probably went home, shared with their family what this guy was saying to them.
Right. Well, he writes to the Philippians, because of my chains, the word is being spread through the Roman guard, and they're great networkers, professionally, personally, in their family. So the gospel is being spread this way. And he says, because of my chains, the brothers and sisters in Philippi are becoming more bold. So Paul is saying, what is supposed to happen is happening. It wasn't, God apparently wasn't following the script that I wrote for him. Yeah. But the gospel is being spread. It's not happening the way that I planned it, or actually even the way that I preferred. Because one of the things I say to folks is that contentment doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean that you don't have preferences. Yeah. But contentment means that you aren't immobilized when life doesn't follow the script.
You point out that Paul probably didn't know that his writing would be translated into every translation you can think of and cover the world.
Right.
That when he wrote it, he was thinking of what?
He was just being authentic. He didn't have a 5-book contract with the publisher, and he's thinking, this is going to do well. Yeah. These lines.
If I just get the right topic.
These are great lines. I can picture those embroidered and framed someday. He's sharing authentically from his own experience, his own thoughts and feelings. Because, other than chapter 2, there's not a lot of theology in Philippians. You have mostly Paul's thoughts and reactions to what is happening to Him.
Yeah.
And so given the uncertainty, not just the discomfort and the undesirable nature of being in prison, but the uncertainty of he doesn't know if he's going to be released, if he's going to spend years there, or if he's going to be executed. So in light of that uncertainty, the perspective, and that's, I keep coming back to that word in the book, perspective that you see that Paul has, that helps reframe what would otherwise just be suffering.
Yeah.
But Paul's perspective and ability to reframe what's happening to him is really remarkable.
You say your attitude is either your best friend or your worst enemy.
Or your worst enemy.
Obviously,
That's
there's
true.
where we fall many times.
Right.
Our attitude.
Right. Yeah. What we say to ourselves is true, and oftentimes, when the problem, the crisis, we get tunnel vision and myopic, and this is the only thing that I can see. This is the only thing that makes sense. This is the only thing that's true. And see, that's what you see Paul doing. Yeah, I'm still in chains. This still sucks. I hate this. But the other thing that I'm seeing is there are some positive things taking place. You also, part of that perspective, I see him, he's celebrating relationships. He says to the Philippians, I thank God in all my remembrance of you. I cringe when I think of people going through really painful stuff and feeling alone.
Yeah. Well, you say that when life sucks, it helps to have friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I call them garden friends. Dave Busby once referred to them as garden friends.
And
Short for
Maureen was your friend.
Mm-hmm. She was my garden friend, my Garden of Gethsemane friend. Those people that we could call at 3 a.m. and ask them to come over, and they would come over and then ask, why am I here?
Do you have people that you could call at 3 a.m. in the morning and come over and help you?
Yeah, fortunately, one of them is just 2 doors down, so I imagine he appreciates that. He wouldn't have to drive across town.
He could just walk there, huh?
Right. But
now, I have to say, when I read that in your book, I pause and I go, do I have any friends that if I called at 3 a.m. in the morning, they would come over? No.
Well, you don't know that. You never had to call them. You never know whether they would or not.
I'm just, how you ponder it real quick?
I knew what you were doing. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
yeah, you hope that you wouldn't need that, but
Yeah.
do I have?
It's
and
like,
many of us say we have lots of acquaintances and fans.
Didn't
Yeah.
Hillary
do I
say,
have?
That's exactly right.
Didn't
That's what we
Hillary
always
say that about the president? Could you call him at 3 a.m. in the morning and get an answer? So she used that too. But what does that say that you're trying to let us know?
Facebook is really popular now, and so people can have hundreds or thousands of Facebook friends, and we have acquaintances, and we can even have fans. But is there someone available, present, face-to-face, accessible, not just phone, but face-to-face presence who can be with us? When I went through a really rough time in 2003 and 2006 with an unexpected bout of depression, one of the gifts that someone gave to me in my face was Roger Severino saying to me, when I felt incredibly flawed, that was when I went through that episode, the word that I was using to describe myself, I'm just flawed. And Roger Severino looked at me in the face and said, Raymond, this season does not define you. And I think you've got viewers of the program who something that they're going through now or experiencing or has been done to them, they're close to thinking this defines who I am, or something that has happened in the past.
Share that camera is yours right there. Somebody watching can identify with what you just said.
Yeah, let me say that again, that what you are going through currently or something that you have been through in the past, and whether that is something that has you guilt-ridden or feeling very shameful, that you feel marked and sort of tattooed by that, that this season, whether it's current or it's a past season, that is not sufficient to define you. In Calvin Miller's book, The Singer, one of my favorite lines from that book is that he says, "No man may burn a label into flesh and make it stay when heaven disagrees." No person can try to label us, give us a noun or an adjective, whether it's something prolonged or a season in our life. And sometimes we'll do the labeling ourselves. We'll brand ourselves with some profound label. And Calvin Miller said, no person can burn a label into flesh and make it stay when heaven disagrees.
Good.
I like Proverbs 27:6. Wounds from a friend can be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently you've had that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you read that and you go, wounds from a friend can be trusted. Because you would not take some sharp words from a person you didn't know.
Yeah,
but a friend
right.
can come at you and what apparently is a wound, because you trust them, you know that they love you.
Right. Yeah. When you know someone knows you,
Yeah.
and they love you,
Yeah.
and you know their life, that you can respect them, then they have entry that not everyone has or can get.
Jesus Christ is your answer today. God bless you. Bye-bye.